Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. The withdrawal of Ron DeSantis means Donald Trump is a big step closer to becoming the Republican candidate for this year's US presidential election. The only person now standing between Trump and the nomination is former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley. But with Haley well behind in the polls ahead of the New Hampshire primary this week, it seems it's pretty much Donald Trump's to lose. My guest today has a pretty remarkable CV and knows this space very well. Bruce Wolpe is a senior fellow, non-resident, at the United States Studies Center. He has worked with the Democrats in Congress during President Barack Obama's first term and on the staff of Prime Minister Julia Gillard. Last year, he published Trump's Australia, which looks at the potential for Donald Trump to return to the presidency and what that means for us here in Australia. Bruce Wolpe, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Sean, great to be back with you. Thank you so much.
Bruce, up front, does Nikki Haley have any chance of winning in New Hampshire?
She has a chance, but I don't believe she will. I actually think she'll fall short with Trump getting over 50% of the vote. That's where the polls are. Ron DeSantis, as you know, has pulled out of the race. And even before he did, there was polling on his supporters, and more than half of them would go to Trump. In other words, he was supposed to be Trump without the baggage, which meant that he was kind of Trump aligned. And so it's natural to think that Trump would gain support from the former DeSantis voters. People were thinking after Iowa that this would be the opportunity for Nikki Haley to really come out, take Trump on, make a real mark, maybe even upset him in New Hampshire. But I think the polls have shown that Trump has been inching up day by day, and to where now he's over 50%. If that holds, she's finished. I think she's finished anyway. But there's no doubt that Trump is in a completely commanding position here.
Just explain, tell me why Ron DeSantis pulled out, but it's kind of broader than that. Why is Donald Trump such a dominant player? And certainly in my memory, I don't know a primary, can you tell me someone who's been as dominant in the race to challenge a president as Trump has?
Or just dominant as a candidate. Ronald Reagan was a very powerful force inside the Republican Party. Bill Clinton came to be one in the Democratic Party, won 2 terms as president. Remember the crowds with Barack Obama when he was campaigning? There were hundreds of thousands, I remember, in Portland, Oregon, to hear him. He went to Berlin and addressed the city in Berlin. And so there have been charismatic candidates who have attracted things, but I haven't seen anything. Well, sort of like Reagan, people say Reaganism, and now Trumpism has emerged. But Trump has forged, it's beyond transactional. You know, most elections you go into, I like your policies, I'm going to vote for you. You'll do something for me. This is a movement. Now, so a lot of people say this is a cult, and they see elements of that. If you look at video of Trump's rallies, like just go to C-SPAN and look at the Manchester, New Hampshire rally from Saturday night, look at the faces of the crowd. They are so happy to be there. They know it's sort of like a Taylor Swift concert. They know what's coming. They know all the lyrics, and they love it. And so they're as engaged with him as Swifties are with her. And he delivers. He talks for an hour and 45 minutes like Fidel Castro. You know, it's really great. And he and they're getting what he wants. And what he is, it's not New Coke or Diet Coke. This is they want the real thing, and they're getting it with him. So most Republicans believe that Joe Biden is an illegitimate president. Most Republicans believe the 2020 election was stolen, and Trump is the embodiment of that. And they also believe what he says. When they come after me, they're coming after you. You know what I do for you, and I protect you, and I support policies that will benefit you. And they want to take me out because they don't want to do anything for you. So you stick with me, and I stick with you. And it's a grand bargain, and it's holding, and it is extremely powerful.
What I don't understand about this, I have a son who is going to college and to school in the Midwest, so it's the southern part of Illinois. And all his friends from college, and he's been to their families' places and spent Thanksgiving with them, they're all Trump lovers. These are smart people who have done very well for themselves. It's not just, they're kind of anti-Biden, they don't like his age, but they are so pro-Trump. What is it that Donald Trump has that the rest of the world doesn't quite understand, doesn't quite get, that really intelligent people in St. Louis and those sorts of cities in the Midwest of the US just love him for?
Actually, according to polls, most college-educated Americans do not like Trump, but it's like 60-30. So I guess your son is coming across those who do like it. What they like is, what phase is the world moving into? Trump represents America first. He wants to bring the troops home, stop involvement overseas, protect the southern border, have trade agreements that don't backfire on working Americans. And so he's a nationalist. And there are cycles in history. And this is a very populist, anti-immigrant, pro-America, anti-foreign era. And Trump embodies that. They also think, for a guy who lied 30,000 times during his presidency, according to the Washington Post fact checker, he is the most relentlessly honest politician that we've seen in generations. In other words, he says, I'm going to, build the wall and stop the immigrants. I'm going to get us out of foreign agreements like architecture like NATO. I'm going to take on China. I'm going to have trade wars. We're going to protect the work. He delivers on what he says, and people really like that. So it's a combination of things. The question is, though, is this where a majority of the country is? Now, Trump lost the popular vote in 2016 to Hillary Clinton. Clearly, he lost the popular vote to Joe Biden. So the whole country hasn't gone ape for Trump. But it has worked out, certainly in 2016 with the Electoral College. So he's there. Will he ever crack 50% approval? I don't think so. He's a divider, not a uniter. But nevertheless, he has the power of all of his bases with him through to the end, and they show up. And the Biden camp is worried that his people will not show up.
Stay with me, Bruce. We'll be back in a minute. I'm speaking to Bruce Wolpe, Senior Fellow, Non-Resident at the United States Studies Centre. What about these legal problems for Trump? 2 states have actually barred him from their primary ballots, Colorado and Maine. That's over the insurrection clause in the Constitution. Trump, of course, has challenged those decisions. How does all this play out? Are these legalese, I suppose, that Donald Trump is going to have to go through for the next 9 months? Will it stop him?
No, it won't stop him. In fact, it's helping him. On the Colorado Maine issues, Colorado ruling that Trump was engaged in an insurrection under the 14th Amendment and therefore cannot appear on the ballot. The Supreme Court will rule on that. But if the Supreme Court upholds Colorado, they won't say, well, every state has to follow what Colorado is doing. In America, it's 50 state elections. The states are very powerful as to what's on their ballots. And so there won't be a uniform application. But the other class of legalisms is, well, did you try and overturn the election in the United States? And was that a criminal activity? Did you take classified documents with you? And was that a political activity? And what Trump has done is politicized that and said, they're coming after me because they're coming after you. They take me out. That means you will be vulnerable. And his base, they embrace that and they get it. So every time that something legal happens against Trump, it turns into a plus as far as solidifying his base. And he says this is the greatest. When I'm indicted, it's the greatest case of interference in an American election in American history. And his base buys it. So that is the power of something that would absolutely destroy any other mortal on earth if they were running for office.
Okay, so do you think it'll be Trump v. Biden? And if so, who wins, Bruce Wolpe?
Barring an act of God, Trump will be on the nominee and alive on November 5th. Biden, all things being equal, Biden should win because A, Trump has not secured a majority of the support of the American people. B, the economy is improving. The economic outlook is improving. Confidence is improving. Australians and Americans are sort of in the same place. Very high interest rates, very tough cost of living pressures. It really hurts. You're in government, you own it, and so it hurts politically. But people can see that interest rates will start coming down in the United States. But age is really dogging Biden, and young people in particular have no enthusiasm for voting for him. And the war in Gaza is also stirring up great passions in the Democratic Party. And Arab American voters are very important in certain key states like Michigan, and they're furious, and understandably so, about what's happening in Gaza. And so that diminishes Biden's support. On the other hand, if you look at Iowa and New Hampshire, okay, Trump got over 50% of the vote, but that means 40% of Republicans are not voting for him. And many of them do want to turn the page and wish that there was someone better. So when it really comes down to it, can Biden peel away some Republicans that are looking for more responsible government? If he can do that, that would be a significant block of votes. So again, I think Biden should win, but because of the lack of enthusiasm of voters behind him, it's really, I don't know.
You wrote the book Trump's Australia last year, and it's available at the moment. What would a Trump win mean for Australia?
A Trump win would mean for Australia, first on foreign policy, Trump is going to go after the architecture established after World War II around the world, which Australia has invested in, from the United Nations to NATO to the World Trade Organization, the World Health Organization, and so forth. Secondly, Trump has an agenda with China, which is different than the Biden Albanese agenda with China, and we'll see how that goes. Third, we have AUKUS. Well, does Trump want to continue with AUKUS? Is he worried that too much nuclear technology is going to be exported to Australia? Are those contracts good for the United States? I mean, where are the jobs going? Where's the money going? And like any good businessman, and we know Donald Trump is a very good businessman, he'll look at the contracts and see whether they're working for Australia. So Australia may find itself more not isolated from the United States, but a bigger gap in the trajectory of the two countries in the region. So it's something we got to look for. And we also got to look at, Trump makes noise in America and the echo chambers here. When we wake up in the morning, we hear U.S. news, big massacre, big gun massacre. Well, is that going to happen here? Abortion rights taken away. Well, is that going to happen here? And so it will leach into the political culture. Now, I think Australia has an immensely stronger political culture as far as democracy is concerned than the United States, starting with compulsory voting. But there will be pressures on Australia's democracy because of the rhetoric that comes out of the Trump White House.
Bruce, it's going to be a fascinating year. And if you don't mind, we'll keep in touch. Thank you very much for talking to Fear and Greed.
No shortage of material, Sean. We'll see you.
That's for sure. That was Bruce Walpe, Senior Fellow, Non-Resident at the United States Studies Centre. This is the Fear and Greed Business Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's best business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.